I'm a Bellagar fighter. I'm a cross gamer. We're here today working on Amtgard, but we live in Florida. And because we live in Florida, today's topic is about heat illnesses. Heat illnesses are a pretty serious topic to cover, and it's a concern during the summer. So as a lot of folks know, the winters are getting colder and the summers are getting hotter. It's just historically the way it's happening. So we need to take care of our bodies, we need to take care of ourselves, and we don't want to be fainting on the field. So I have a couple notes that I'm going to talk about. I try to memorize as much as I could. Of course, I want to give you information. But the first disclaimer is I'm not a doctor, and this is not my class. So it's funny that I'm teaching it. Does anybody going to school to be a doctor? Or anybody going into the medical degrees? If you're not, that's okay. Does anybody have any experience with anybody fainting from heat exhaustion? Has anybody felt lightheaded before from heat? Has anybody ever got cramps? Yeah, so everyone's raising their hand because that's just the nature of the human body. You try to take care of it as much as you can, but you forget. I was an avid video game player for a long time. I would forget to eat all the time. You could equate that to forgetting to drink in Bellagar. It's the same thing. You don't have enough energy to focus. You don't have enough energy to like talk to people, and you just don't become yourself basically. And so let's talk about some of the topics. Again, I gave you the disclaimer. I'm not responsible for you doing things or not doing things, but it's important that we all kind of go over this topic at a general sense. And there's other things that you could look up. This class comes from somebody from Tennessee, another Bellagar fighter called Sir Mallory. I believe that's their title. And they are out of their Dominion. So there's a full class already on this. We're just doing it here in Tallahassee so that Florida gets it a little bit sooner. The topic goes over what heat illnesses are. So heat illness would be like categorized as something that affects the body where you're not able to regulate yourself. So a lot of people know about hypo, but what about hyperthermia? The opposite of hypo, right? Meaning your body cannot regulate its heat. Your temperature typically is like a 79.3 or something similar to that, or 97.3. Sorry, 97.3. You'd be dead probably. 97.3 or something similar to that, right? That's how your body regulates its heat. There's three ways that you're typically going to transfer heat. It's either going to be some kind of convection, convention, or there's conduction is the last one. So those three are out there for you, right? One of all three of those are actually categorized under sweats. Sweat does all three of those. And what do I mean by that? When you sweat, you're perspirating. So there's heat being transferred from your body to your sweat glands so that it can release the heat. There's a breeze which is taking the heat, and then there's like the regulation of your body. So those three types of heat are really the way it transfers it is really important, because when you're going through some kind of heat illness, you are not being able to regulate that core temperature that you have. So you're getting hotter and hotter and hotter. How many folks have heard of like a heat stroke, right? What is the other thing that folks kind of forget that happens before typically a stroke? Exhaustion. Yeah, exactly. So there's like, you don't have to have a heat stroke for you to be in danger. So similar to when we get a hurricane warning versus like, there's just the option of a hurricane happening, right? So, or a thunderstorm is a good one. It is another good example. Go ahead, Mariska.
I was going to say, similar to what he was saying with like hurricanes, watches and warnings.
Yeah.
Do you believe there's a meme? If there's a warning, that means you have all the ingredients to make the taco.
Yeah.
With the hurricane being the taco, but a watch is, we have tacos now.
Yeah. So you can think about the same thing. The Miami folks did it as a Cuban sandwich. All the ingredients to make the Cuban sandwich, with all the great ingredients of a Cuban sandwich, are not combined, but they're there, and then all of it together, right? So that meme is the same for when you are going through some level of heat exhaustion. What are the signs? Typical signs are dizziness, lightheadedness. The difference between both of those, though, between stroke and everything else prior to that, a stroke, you need to go to the hospital. It is not a question of should I or maybe not. You should be getting medical attention. The other one, you can probably come out of it, but you'll know, typically, there's like signs that you'll have that are very similar to heart attacks, where your body is shutting down. Take these things and matters very seriously, but I don't have to tell you that. You folks have probably gone through some of that. So I can give you a little story about my background. I started in 2024 in Belagar fighting. It was the first time that I had a weapon, let's say, or first event that I went to. It was fun, it was great. I didn't get any kind of heat exhaustion there. 3 months later, I thought I could do the same thing. It was March versus July. The same level of fighting, maybe a little more heavy. I almost fainted in that chair right there because I was not taking care of myself. I had lost a lot of water and it was really hot. And the difference in the temperature really changes that. So I felt like I actually fought more at the other event, but simply because it was July, which we're at today in this month, I was dizzy, couldn't talk. I had a lot of the symptoms that you would consider heat exhaustion. So, go ahead, Meyer. Oh, okay. So this is the part where we're gonna get some input. How many folks feel like they've gone through some level of heat exhaustion, dizziness, almost fainting? All right, so that's some folks, right? Can you tell me a quick story? I asked Tress first, so we'll go with Tress because he was the first person I asked. Tress, can you give me an example?
Yeah, so I haven't had a heat stroke, but I've had severe heat exhaustion. I've been saying this before. From this, a big part of your body regulating has to do with when you sweat the humidity. So the high humidity makes it harder for you to cool down, and you won't realize it's sneaking up on you either until you're already sick. But I was fine, left the field, driving home I got a headache, got home, I was in the shower, I started hyperventilating, and then I got a migraine for 6 hours. So you gotta be careful.
All right, great, thank you.
Pay attention to your body.
So that's a really dangerous event for Tress. If they would have fainted in the shower, they could have seriously hurt themselves, and that was from just being overheated.
Or in the car.
Well, I cooled down. It just hit me. It was a delayed thing.
Stop moving.
Yeah.
Super hot, going into an air-conditioned environment, low mobility.
So that's a great example of heat exhaustion. It happened much later. They didn't faint and they didn't go through all the kind of key things that you would consider the stroke, but it could have gone to that if they've been outside and they fainted outside. It could have been a pretty serious medical event. Does anybody else have a story where maybe something a little bit about cramps, maybe something about wearing certain clothes or just fainting in general? Can I have I'll go this way.
Hi everybody, I'm Gideon. I almost fell out a month ago at our mid-rain. I have a very fancy gambeson that has a synthetic liner, and I was wearing it too tight to my body. So all of the heat and all of my perspiration was just trapped against my body and couldn't evaporate. I got off the field, and I wasn't even fighting this day. I was just out running games, but just standing in the heat in the clothes that I was wearing. They were too tight fitting.
Well, and you were also in the shade the majority of the day too.
Do what?
You were also I noticed you were also in the shade too.
I spent a huge amount of but it
So
was
even
just
indirect heat is enough.
Right.
Yeah, it was just so hot and so humid, and I was wearing constricting clothes, so it's really important to wear stuff that's breathable and also not super close to your body. And I was doing both of those things wrong. I got off the field, I was like, I need to go cool off. I went and sat in my car for a little bit, I ran the AC, I cooled down, I thought. I got up, I was walking around, and suddenly I felt very dizzy. I went and sat down and started trying to drink some water, and I came this close to fainting. I was lightheaded, tunnel vision, all the color drained from my face. I was basically riding the edge for 30, 45 minutes. I probably should have gone to a doctor, but instead I just went and took a cold shower, and I don't advise that part.
Okay, well I want to make sure I get to these two folks because they had their hands up as well. So we'll go over Robin. Robin, give me an example of what happened to you, or maybe a story.
Yeah, so before I do, who here knows the first thing that is affected when you start drinking?
Your brain.
What's that?
Your brain.
Brain? Yeah, your judgment. Same thing with heat exhaustion. Your judgment gets worse, your reflexes get worse. So you can easily, if you're not paying close attention to yourself, you can easily get into heat exhaustion just because you aren't paying attention to yourself. Makes it harder to emotionally regulate. Also, your body can only absorb a pint of water per hour. It doesn't matter how much you drink. If you cannot cool down from that pint of water, you will never cool down. there have been times when I have been drinking enough water, but because I'm still out in the sun running around, I'm still getting closer and closer to heat exhaustion because that's just what heat does.
Yep. Thank you. Hi, Mariska. Give us a story or something.
So, hi, I'm Mariska. For those of you who don't know me, ow, bugs. So I want to go ahead and start by saying not everyone who is insulin sensitive or semi-ish diabetic or diabetic, not everyone's the same. I am not diabetic. I do have sugar drops though. And without fail, intense heat will cause your sugar to absolutely go out of whack. And so if you're not hydrating enough, the sugar in your blood gets higher and you get, I personally get very dizzy. My judgment is almost immediately skewed. If my sugar absolutely plummets, which happened to me at this past mid-brain, and shout out to Robin and Tana both for getting me fruit, because otherwise I probably would have gone to the hospital because it was bad. It was a combination of heat exhaustion and low blood sugar. When you're out in the heat and your sugar starts to take a dip, it's a lot worse. It's like walking in a fishbowl full of Jell-O. At least that's how my experience is. We finished a game, which I should have sat out of, and I just immediately like collapsed on the field. I wasn't wearing a whole bunch of gear. I was wearing fairly natural fibers.
Right.
I even had a shirt that had like a giant slit open in the back for maximum breathability, and I was still overheating. I think it took like I think it was like Rain and Tress who like picked me up and was like, okay, we are walking you physically off the field, because I couldn't even speak. It's something that I've got to be very careful about, which is why I always carry juice, oranges, and sugar tablets, just in case like I need it immediately. And if you are sensitive to heat like I am, you have to know this and actually be prepared for that. Otherwise, you could run the risk if you go to a big Kingdom event, if you just collapse, and like I'm tiny, so if I collapse on a giant field where there's over 100 bodies moving around, I can get trampled, I can get passed over, and after a collapse, you have maybe a few seconds until you're in the danger territory.
That's right.
So, best way that I cool down, if I may.
We'll go over like methods. We've gone over kind of stories on purpose. Yep.
There's another component that's kind of not been touched on just
Sure,
yet.
sure. Yeah, we're talking about like the level, the different stories, and then maybe components. So go ahead, introduce one.
Hi. Game name Meyer. So I have, not in Amtgard, but when I was a young lad in marching band at band camp,
Okay.
it was very humid, it was very hot, and so of course, you know, the school officials were making sure that everybody was getting regular water breaks, and that is wonderful. However, there's another component of hydration and how your body handles fluid exchange that is very important, and that is your electrolyte balance.
Oh yeah.
So, if you are pumping straight water into your body, that's great. You need that. But you aren't just losing water as you sweat. You're also losing salts and other electrolytes. And you have to replace those as well as the water that your body needs to function, because the absence of any part of that chain is going to interfere with your ability to maintain life. And nobody wants to deal with that. So, it's great to drink lots and lots and lots of water, but you have to think about the fact that you are also essentially flushing your salts out by replenishing your water without replenishing the sweat you're losing through the same process.
Do you have a story for that though?
I almost passed out twice in the same day, and
Was
it was
because you weren't.
yeah.
You were just drinking water.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure everyone kind of feels like they got the topics, because now we're going to talk about some of the things you get and some things you can do to prevent it, right? So we talked about like kind of different events, marching band, fighting. There's a lot. There's more people. Just being outside. There's more people here that have had an effect on their body and almost fainted or almost gone to the hospital simply from playing the game. That's all they're doing, or helping others play the game even. So even less of a like activity, but still an effect.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that it's very, very, it's like highlighted the fact that we as individuals are here to play the game and have fun and be with our friends. But if we're not taking care of ourselves, other people have to take care of us. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we run a true risk of being injured or hurt or affected. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that there is signs, but also things you can do, really easy things. Maya has brought up a really great one. Heat cramps, or you get cramps, right? A lot of people get cramps on their calves. What they're doing is they're not replenishing the electrolytes. Typically, that's what's happening. a level of sugar plus salt, but you're mostly losing salt and water as you sweat. The sweat that you're getting will make your clothes stick to itself. So if you are really, really sweaty and you can't transfer the heat, then that's bad. So wearing dark colors typically is another thing that will happen. But let's talk about the things that affect your body. Dizziness, head cramps, a level of sickness, like you'll get like cramps in your stomach. Those things are typical signs. And so if you're getting a typical sign, what should you do? Kind of what are your next steps? Typically prevention is better than intervention. Meaning if we get to a point where we're having a cramp, we've kind of gone over the hill a little bit. A little bit. It doesn't mean you can't recover from it. But prevention is more important. So you stay hydrated. So every time that you feel like you need to get some water, drink some water. You should be drinking mostly water with some electrolytes and not the other way around. It shouldn't just be electrolytes and salts, over-salting your body, because that could have problems with kidney issues and just overuse of your kidneys. But focus on drinking fluids and eating snacks that have waters, and make sure that you replenish your electrolytes. So we did a watermelon at our mid-range. Thank you, Robin, for going around and giving people watermelon. It's really, really high in the type of hydration you need, along with oranges, which is why they used to do it in sports, right? Because they knew there was a level of hydration inherently in those snacks.
And bananas contain potassium.
Yeah, and a note about potassium. I'm not a doctor. Nobody's sitting there going to medical school, but anybody on the internet or anybody that watches this, they know that the potassium is an important thing for cramps, but it does not replace the electrolytes that you're losing. So it's a small portion of it where you're losing much more electrolytes and a lot more salts and water along with that. You should acclimatize, meaning like if you're not used to the Florida heat, don't play like if you're from up north coming down, don't play the same way. The same thing goes for the opposite. If you're not used to like elevation or things that are going to make your body more exhausted, it could increase that level of heat exhaustion at another level, right? So it can come from multiple angles. Basically, being more tired makes you potentially sweat more, and then that you lose that heat. Loose fitting clothes is really good. Marisha talked about the open back. That's really great. Having a shade or some way to regulate your body. Tress has a hat. Robin has a hat. Mariska has a bandana. Those are great ways.
I was going to say, and I picked this up from the wonderful Jay of Darkwater. She wears a lot of linens, natural fibers.
Yeah.
Not a lot of synthetic stuff. So this is the stuff I'm wearing right now is very synthetic. It's workout gear, it's great, but natural fibers are going to help you regulate heat a little bit better than synthetic fibers.
Absolutely. Things that are going to kind of wick the sweat a little more probably. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't wear cool garb. You can still wear great garb.
You can be fashionable.
But you should be thinking about these things. I have summer garb. You notice that I do not have sleeves. It lets me breathe. I don't have a big cuff. And it is not as long as some of my other ones. Dousing, or making sure that you help the regulation of your body instead of just sweating it all out. Cool rags or some fans or something to regulate that and transfer the heat. Shade. We started in the shade, but we're no longer in the shade. That sucks. But the sun is a death ray and it's trying to kill you, and because of that, you should consider shade.
Sunscreen.
And then we already talked about like a way to do convection, portable fans, things like that. That's hard. It really is. So I focus on three things. I focus on having electrolyte powder. I focus on having my water regular, like having more water than I need to. And I focus on making sure that I get into shade every time I'm either fighting or just relaxing. So if you folks can focus on three things, because as a human brain we can't do everything all the time. I can't bring a watermelon plus everything else that I need to do, or I can't bring all the fruits that I want. The pineapple is another good one. I can't just bring everything. Focus on like a couple of them, right?
Pineapple's a really good fruit because it's got a bunch of good stuff in it, like a bunch of vitamins and minerals. But what's also interesting is there's an enzyme in it, and folks on the internet, you can absolutely correct me. I discovered that eating pineapple before like a surgery or something reduces inflammation and bruising. And so before big events like Kingdom fights where I know I'm going to be doing tourneys and stuff like that, I'll actually get like a Publix thing of pineapple, and I will eat it the night before I go onto a tournament because I know I'm going to get hit. I know it's going to bruise. It's going to stink.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be that bad. And I bruise like a peach, so.
That's the bromelain.
Bromelain?
It's the same part of the pineapple that eats you back.
Yeah, it's a meat tenderizer.
Nice.
All right, folks. Well, we've gone over what things are: stroke, exhaustion. We've gone over cramping. We've gone over the three different ways your body's regulated here. We've gone over a lot of things. We've gone over how to prevent it. So, is there any questions before we kind of adjourn? There's not really a follow-up. We're not going to beat each other up with swords. But is there any questions?
Cooling rags.
Okay, what about cooling rags?
Those also can help.
Oh, okay, yeah. Amazon purchases, or anywhere you get your athlete equipment, you will find cooling rags. They're really good. You kind of freeze them, or you put them in cold water, and they transfer the heat really easily to you. Any questions? No questions. All right, Mariska, did you have something else that you wanted to say?
Yes. So if you before you are getting ready to get into the danger territory where you're feeling like, okay, I need to take a break and like start cooling off because I don't want to get dizzy, which dizziness is kind of like at least one of the first notable signs for me. One thing that I like to do is I will put a cold icy bottle of something, or I will put a cooling rag or just straight ice on my pulse points. I don't know if it works or doesn't, but I think that like while blood's being pumped through these major pulse points, you're cooling the blood a little bit as it moves through, and that'll help cool off in the long term. That could be placebo effect, that could be science.
No,
I don't know.
there's a science.
I am not a health professional.
It works.
There's a science behind that.
Yeah.
There's a science. So the one thing we didn't talk
That's
about,
what we all did.
which is the reason we don't talk about it for liability reasons, but typically, how do you help somebody being affected by it? We can go over a little bit, but remember, we have no liability. And I said that in the beginning, but we'll say it again.
That's just something that I do.
The easy, it's really good. It is putting where your blood flows is a very good place, which is why they have you do it on your neck and your armpits. When you first get like somebody trying to get you out of the danger zone, they're gonna put stuff in your armpits because it's the closest to your heart and it's a big artery, and they're gonna leave stuff on your shoulders as well. So if you want to help somebody, what you do is you get them into shade, you check to see, you do the same things that you would do when you're diagnosing somebody that has fainted, which is you look for like signs of slurring of speech or not able to communicate properly and really lagging. A lot of it is lag, like their brain is not able to comprehend you talking to them properly, so it's like a lot of dead silence. This is the signs you needed to be considering. We, again, are not medical professionals, so we want to help our friends. What we do is we do the things that we would do for ourselves. Get them into shade, get them water, get them electrolytes, get them the right fruits and vegetables and things to get them back. But remember that if it's serious, you call 911. You do not wait to call 911 if you feel like it's serious. And I think that's it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Fert.